stomp you out. Came with all my goons, we gon' thug it out. Go ahead, bust a move, we gon' stomp you out. Came with all my goons, we gon' thug it out. Throw your hood up, go ahead and rep your city. Throw your hood up, go ahead and rep your.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is Spence versus Garcia being postponed to December 5th, and the possibility of fans being in the stadium. And so I'll share my screen. This is an article from ESPN. The article reads, Earl Spence Jr., Danny Garcia bout moved to December 5th at AT&T Stadium with fans in attendance. This bout between unified welterweight titleist Earl Spence Jr. and former two-division title holder Danny Garcia will take place December 5th at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Cowboys. This event, which had been scheduled for November 21st at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, will have fans in attendance at this time. Holds were put on other venues around the world in hopes that the fight could be moved somewhere with a live audience. Every time Spence fights in front of his hometown fans, it is an unforgettable and energetic evening, said Tom Brown, president of TGB Promotions, who staged the card. We're excited to be able to bring those fans this great matchup. In March 2019, Spence, a native of DeSoto, Texas, defeated Mikey Garcia in the same venue in front of more than 47,000 fans. Spence, who suffered a serious one-car crash a year ago, said the fight in front of his hometown fans adds some extra motivation. It means even more to me. I'm going up against a great champion in Danny Garcia. Spence said, I know people are looking out to see if I've lost a step or won't be at my best, but I'm 100% focused and everything is on point in training camp. I just can't wait to go out there and put on a show. Garcia was the unified and lineal junior welterweight champion before moving up to welterweight. Wait, that means that the lineal, never mind, I'm gonna get into that. All right, where he won the WBC title against Robert Guerrero in 2016. In his most recent fight, Garcia defeated Ivan Redkach by decision in January. This matchup is a mega fight unification bout, said Garcia. It's my opportunity to reclaim my spot at the top of the division and become a 5-time world champion. Training and sparring has been going really well. I'm extremely prepared and ready, and it can't get here soon enough. The pay-per-view card includes Sebastian Fundora versus Jorge Cota in a junior middleweight bout, a welterweight bout between Jose Cito Lopez and Francisco Santana, and Julio Cega versus Eduardo Ramirez in the featherweight division. So, Dollar Bill, what are your thoughts on the fight being postponed to December 5th so that they can have a live gate, one, and two, does this hurt Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell, who are fighting on December 5th as well?
First, with the date being moved to December 5th for a live gate, why not? With a fight like this, which is going to be exciting, where people are going to be able to get their questions asked, answered about Earl. How is he looking? How is he feeling? Is it the same Earl? Everybody who wants to see Danny Garcia and fight somebody like Earl and want to see Earl fight somebody like this is the fight for the welterweights. I don't really care about any other fights that's being made right now. This is the fight for the welterweights right here for me. This is going to tell me who is the best welterweight out there. This is the fight for me right here. They're moving it to December 5th. I'm all for it. And they're going to have it in Dallas, Texas. And they're going to do it live at the stadium, the Dallas Stadium. I think it's going to be dope. I think everybody's been waiting to come out to an event. And with a population of 1,382,270, the third largest place in Texas, other than the third largest city in Texas, beside Houston and San Antonio, I know that they're going to come out. And I know it's going to generate a lot of money. It's going to be exciting. I know it's going to generate a lot of money on pay-per-view also, because I know that everybody wants to see this fight. Everybody wants to see Earl and Danny. Everywhere I go, even people that don't even watch boxing, they're talking about Earl and Danny. So
you think the UK picked this fight up, Trill?
Yeah, the UK is definitely picking up this fight.
All right, so what about Ryan Garcia? Do you think that's gonna hurt the Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell fight?
Not at all. Ryan's fans are Ryan's fans. You know, a lot of people that tune in to watch Ryan Garcia don't even know who a Danny Garcia and a Earl Spence is. A lot of kids I know are talking about Danny Garcia. These kids don't ever watch boxing, but they watch TikTok and they on Instagram and they love Ryan and YouTube. They seen him, Ryan, with all their favorite YouTubers and all their favorite stars. They want to see it. Little kids, you know what I'm saying? My kids, you know what I'm saying? My friends' kids, they all know Ryan. They like him and they're excited to see the fight. Boxers, like, we want to see the fight too. I think something's going to have to happen with the time for true boxing fans, or how they're going to do the time where you're going to be able to watch both fights. I don't know. For them to compete, and then you got Luke Campbell fans. You got people in the UK who's just going to watch this fight to see that their man Luke Campbell wins. I'm going to watch the fight. I'm watching both fights. To me, it's not going to affect anything for me. I'm watching both fights. But I don't think it hurts Ryan, and I don't think it hurts Luke because they have their own fan base. Then I think Danny Garcia and Earl, everybody's going to be watching that. So I think it's going to be a thing of people. If you're really into boxing, you're going to be clicking back and forth. And I know somebody got to be smart. They got to know that if they do it at the same time, if one's gonna fail on that one, I have to say who's gonna fail on that one. I would have to say Luke Campbell and Ryan. The reason why I say that is because everybody wants to see this fight with Earl and Danny Garcia.
I expected a Trill answer. So this is old school. This is the floor model television, color television, where you got to turn the knob. You can only watch one thing at a time. There's no DVR. There's no TiVo. There isn't even a Betamax. Okay, you must watch one fight. You could either watch the same time. You can only watch one. Danny Garcia and Earl Spence, or Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell. What is Trill watching?
You know, I'm definitely going with the guys. You know what I'm doing? Okay. Plugging 2 TVs in. You know,
there we go. I'm in the den and I'm in the living room in the middle, looking both ways. Right, yeah.
I'm running to the living room in a barrel.
I like the question. So because it's at the same time, I'm going to Hooters. You know?
Nah, I'm definitely will watch Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence. This is the fight. This is the fight right here. For as welterweights, and you mentioned going back in the days when we had to turn the fight. That's what type of fight this is. This is a throwback fight. This is Hagler Hearns. This is Leonard Hearns. This is Duran and Hearns. This is Duran and Leonard. This is a throwback fight with 2 great welterweights, and it's going down.
That's right. All right, G.
Well, first I'll say this. With the second question that you had, will it conflict? I think Eddie is always good at preventing those type of conflicts. So I could imagine that the Luke Campbell, Ryan Garcia fight is going to actually be before the Earl Spence, Danny Garcia fight, and which benefits the UK anyways, you know. So I think that's not going to necessarily be an issue. Now, in regards to December 5th at the AT&T Stadium, I would say this. If, in fact, they could pack this house, then I have to accredit Earl Spence, because I remember when he fought Mikey Garcia, the argument was, well, these are Mikey's fans. It's Texas. There's a huge Mexican population. So, like that was a lot of like the arguments around if Earl Spence is a star or not. I remember when he had like that side debate with TC. That's what TC was bringing up. Like, yo, those were Mikey's fans. You know what I mean? So if in fact he could pack the house on this one, unless there's a bunch of Puerto Ricans I don't know about in Texas, I would have to equate that, you know what, these are Earl's fans, and Earl is now that star that we want him to be.
So just for clarification, you're saying that Danny Garcia has no fans in Texas just because he...
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Hey, you're saying Earl Spence doesn't have any fans in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Come on now, G. Come on now, G.
But that's a great point.
No.
You can't have fans somewhere, you know.
No, what I'm saying is this. Pretty much, all right. Boston is tribal, right? Boston is tribal.
I get what you're saying, G.
I don't get what you're saying. You got three Lakers fans here from Boston.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's your hearts. But what I'm saying is this, that, boxing is tribal, right? Like, I'm pretty sure Danny's fans, right? Some of them will be traveling to Texas, right? Some of them, right? But there's a reason why Danny's that dude in Brooklyn or in New York. There's a large Puerto Rican population in New York. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's certain places, like, hey, they're riding for their fighter. If you're Puerto Rican, New York is where it's at. Puerto Rican Day Parade, all that stuff, there's going to be a fight, and there's going to be a Puerto Rican fight. And there's going to be a Cotto, there's going to be a Danny, there's going to be somebody holding it down for the Puerto Ricans. When you look at, like, California and Mexico, I mean, not Mexico. Well, yeah, Mexico, obviously, but California and Texas, those are Mexico. Those are like little. Yeah. So when a fighter goes down there and he's Mexican, best believe he's bringing the whole hood out. What I'm saying is, if Earl Spence brings the hood out, people can't say, oh, it's because of Mikey, because Mikey's Mexican. He drew out the Mexican crowd. Now you got to say, hey, you know what? Earl might just be that dude. That's the argument that I'm making. So that now people can't say Earl's a star.
I understand that argument, but you were saying how, like, it won't be because of Danny. And that's where I'm just saying, like, how can you make that assumption as if Danny doesn't have fans in Texas?
Yeah, obviously he has fans.
Which is so crazy.
A large turnout. That's my argument. I believe it'll be more Earl fans than Danny fans in the arena. That's the argument that I'm making. And then if that's the case, then people can't, downplay Earl's star power anymore. That's the argument that I'm making. But go ahead.
I just think that Garcia will have fans in the building. I remember the fight. I was just trying to look it up where Arce, and they were talking, and they was like with the other guy. They was like, well, if they was in Texas, they was like, and they're gonna come out for the Mexicans, but if they ain't two Mexicans, as long as they're Latino. You know what I'm saying?
Possible. Hey, Latino.
They gonna root. He said, well, he ain't Mexican, still Latino.
Right, man. Hey, I'm just trying to
because they love fights. Mexican fight fans, they love fights. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, they support their own, but they love great fights.
No, but what I'm saying is, if the Mexican crowd does show up, then Earl could argue, well, those are my fans. I want them over because I beat Mikey Garcia. You get what I'm saying?
From here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is my hometown. Now it's like you can't really argue against his star power. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be Puerto Ricans popping up. I'm pretty sure there's going to be Mexicans that make the argument that Trill said, we rooting for the Latino, right? I got you. But at the end of the day, the argument to me is clear. Earl's a star. You know what I mean? And so I actually like the fact
I agree that Earl's a star.
No, but I'm saying the reason why I'm making this argument is because of what happened with the Mikey Garcia thing. People were saying, oh, well,
I don't matter what people were saying about Mikey Garcia. Yeah. My only issue with your argument is you're trying to just give all the credit to.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I've never, for example, right? Like I've always said, people, when it comes to boxing, right? People aren't going to just support you just to support you, right? Because, like, if you're going to fight like a tuna can, I'm not paying $75 to watch that, right? I'm not paying like $200 to go watch you at a stadium because you're beating up some guy that's an actual cab driver. It's not happening. So I need you to fight the best, or at least somebody that I'm like, there's a strong possibility you could lose, right? So 2 fighters make an event, you know what I mean? But now when I see this, I'm like, again, this is just based off of the stuff that was going on with Mikey. people just kept shooting down Earl Spence's star power because they were like, well, that's Mikey. Mikey was a star. Mikey brought out the Mexicans. That wasn't because of you. So I'm just saying, like, hey, if he could pull this off in Dallas, not Dallas, in was it Dallas? Whatever, it was in Texas.
It was. Yeah, Cowboy Stadium.
Oh, okay. So
Cowboy Stadium.
all right. So but
Probably
come on.
1,300,000.
If he can pull this off, then people got to be like, all right, yo, respect to the dude. And then obviously there's going to be Danny Garcia fans in there. Like, that's like a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying? That's just like when people talk about Wilder versus Fury. Wilder had fans in the arena, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, we know.
Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Don't try to.
Oh, they had fans. Wilder had fans in the stadium. Wilder had fans in the stadium.
Where were they?
But the bulk of those people were the UK fans because, again, boxing is tribal. People support their team. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm just saying. Like, hey, if Earl sells this out, and now it's safe to say, yo, Earl's that dude. You know what I mean? And that's the only argument I'm making. Now, but my only thing is I'm a little nervous about being in the stadium because the numbers, the COVID numbers are going back up, you know, and so I think the reason why they're pushing it back is maybe they're trying to see, like, hey, maybe the numbers could go back down. So I don't know. I'm hoping the numbers go back down and they have a system in place where it's not going to spread in the arena. But yeah, but I'm actually excited for this fight, and it's good to see that they're actually going to have a gate.
All right, Ned.
Speaking of having a gate, I heard the Miami Dolphins are allowing max capacity audiences at their games now. And when I heard that, I was like, who would risk themselves to see the Dolphins? But enough of that.
That's why it's at max capacity, bro. They know that. You know what I'm saying?
But nah, this is great. Like, you know, they're gonna I'm not mad at the that Earl and Danny pushed the fight to December to have a live audience for the fight. It's a fight everybody wants to see. It's another anticipated fight of the year. When everybody heard this fight was happening, it was, you know, they got that tingling sensation in them, like, yo, I can't wait. You know, I know my man Caden was happy, Trez was happy, and G was happy when they heard this fight was announced. Professional speculation that it didn't happen. So, you know, it's great for boxing. It's great that hopefully they have an audience, like they're saying that they might, but hopefully they will. And then, you know, I can't wait for that fight to happen because it's something I want to see. But in talks of Ryan Campbell, like them, Earl Spence and Danny overshadowing Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell, I don't think it would affect them that much, but I think people are excited for both fights. And, you know, when the fights do happen, hopefully they're not conflicting with each other where, you know, they're on and Ryan's on. But, you know, it's the digital era. You can have the zone on your phone, be at the fight, watch it on your phone, watch it on your TV, watch the fight live, watch it on your phone. You know, you had two places at one time. So, you know, I think people in this era, if you want, you can have your cake and eat it too. So yes, I don't think they will suffer as bad as we think they might. So that's my piece.
Yeah, and also to add, now you brought up a good point. Like the Ryan and Campbell fight is cool, but you know, when I think of marquee divisions, I always think heavyweights and welterweights. You know, like they generate the most star power, the most casual fans. So I don't really see the DAZN bout really interfering that much with a Danny Garcia versus a Earl Spence. Like, let's just be real. Yeah, Ryan is a star, but we talking about the welterweight division, bro. It's
all
like
weight classes matter.
No, I agree.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys.
He said it, and then he immediately started sipping his water. That's what made it.
What is in that cup?
My eyes open.
His eyes open. That's all we need to know. All right, so basically, for me, I think you're right. The heavyweight division and the welterweight division are usually the divisions that draw in the casuals, and I think it's for two reasons. One, the heavyweight division is where power is key. It can end any night, any fight with one right. Like, you know, all it takes is one punch. And so the heavyweight division, that's the lure, that's the attraction. That's what brings people to the heavyweight division. Anything can happen in the heavyweight division. But welterweight division to me is where skill meets power at its finest. Where, for example, I think the knock on the lower weight divisions is you can see 1,000 punches per round. Well, let me not exaggerate. You can see over 100 punches per round. You can see like 30
punches in the fight. I know what you were saying. 1,000 punches per fight.
Yeah, 1,000 punches per fight. Like
nobody die.
And the guys leave with like a little something, you know. And it's like, you know. And so some people don't like that. Some people do. Some people like seeing it's more skill at the lower weight division, more skill, chess match, and so you have to like certain type of fights to be into that. Whereas in the welterweight division, it's where skill meets power. The welterweight division is where they have great skill, but they also have amazing power to knock each other out. And so, you know, you can see a heavyweight division type of knockout with guys who have great skill. And so I think that's where like the welterweight division is key. And then like the more you go up, the more the skills start to fade. So it's kind of like, you know, it depends on the fighter. I'm not to say you can't have, because you have some guys at 160 who are very skilled, like the 147 pounders, but
plants, you know.
Yeah, it gets more rare the more you go up. And so I think that's where, like, when you look at 147, you got like Danny Garcia, Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao. It's like all these guys are skilled, talented, and you just have so many, and this is where you can create the great fight. So I think that's why those divisions are the popular divisions. Now, getting into the Ryan Garcia thing, I'd watch Earl Spence versus Danny Garcia over that fight. Not to say that that's not a great fight, but to me, like Trill said, this is the fight for the welterweight division. And there are bigger fights among the guys in the lower weight divisions, like Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. Like, that's the fight for the little guys. So it's like, this is a good fight, and you don't want to belittle that fight. It's a great test, but it's more of a step-up fight for Ryan Garcia as opposed to a mega pay-per-view event. You can tell by the platforms in room. One is just a event being put on by DAZN. The other is a major pay-per-view fight that's going to have a live gate, which is big when you look at the situation we're in due to the pandemic. So they're just different levels to this fight. So I'll watch Danny Garcia versus Earl Spence over that fight. Like everyone said, if Eddie Hearn is smart, he would use this as like the undercard to Danny Garcia and Earl Spence, because this fight is better than any other fight on the card that I named. So more people would watch Garcia and Luke Campbell over the undercard for Danny Garcia and Earl Spence. Yeah. So what I think is he just needs to strategize it in a way in which it's happening during the undercards, so I can watch that fight live and then watch Earl Spence immediately after, and that would be perfect. That would be a great night of boxing. So if you're listening, Eddie, just do what Jermell Charlo did when he waited for UFC to finish, and just wait, schedule it for, by the time they finish, Earl Spence and Danny Garcia will be about to make their way to the ring, and you'll get probably even more views than you would have gotten had they not moved to that date. So that's just one thing to think about. Now, this is the fight, like Trill said. Earl Spence Jr., he beat Kell Brook 3 years ago in the UK when Special K was Special K. I don't know if the special is still there anymore with Kell Brook, but it was when Earl Spence beat him. He lost to Triple G, then he lost to Earl Spence. And he put up a hell of a fight with Earl Spence, and I had Kell Brook winning until Earl Spence with the body attack, and he was able to wear Kell Brook down. Now, here's what I'm getting at. Earl Spence has won big fights. He's been in big fights. Danny Garcia has won fights, and he beat Robert Guerrero at 147. And people want to sleep on the Ghost. The Ghost was a great fighter at 147. Ghost wasn't no slouch.
Nobody saying nothing about the Ghost.
Andre Berto found that out the hard way. So, you know, people want to sleep on a Ghost, that's cool. Danny Garcia. Huh?
Yeah. No, I was just saying, like, you can't sleep on the Ghost, and you can't sleep on his coming from a lower weight class and going all the way up to 147, becoming. Man, listen, put some respect on Robert the Ghost Guerrero's name.
Exactly. Adrian Granados, people can laugh at Adrian Granados, but he gave Sean Porter all he can handle. Sean Porter, in the lead up to the fight with Danny Garcia, picked Adrian Granados, said Adrian Granados was a harder fight than Danny Garcia. What did Danny Garcia do to Adrian Granados? So, you know, people can say Adrian Granados is better than some of the fighters that these other people are fighting at 147. But, you know, we'll talk about that in a second. My thing is, Danny Garcia, for all the crap that he gets, is actually the lineal. He was the lineal heavyweight champion at 147. I mean, at 140. He was the lineal little heavyweight. He was the lineal super lightweight champion, junior welterweight champion at 140. So at 140, Danny Garcia is the lineal. Danny Garcia moves up to 147, leaves the division vacant, leaves it open, then someone else moves up, takes over the division in his absence. But is he the lineal? See, if people talk about how Tyson Fury's not the lineal because he didn't beat Lennox, right? So you take over 140-pound division when Danny's gone. But Danny's the man who beat the man. But you didn't like that division when Danny was dominating it. As soon as the lineal leaves the division and goes to 147, and then someone else comes up and dominates 140, somehow they get credit. Earl Spence fights Mikey Garcia. 47,000 people show up to the arena, and you want to take the credit away from Earl Spence. Oh, he's not a star. He's not a star. What I see is the willingness to take away accomplishments from certain fighters and big up other fighters, regardless of whether or not they've earned it or they deserved it. Earl Spence beat guys 3 years before other people, but somehow when the other person beats him 3 years later, they're going to get more credit. Danny Garcia is the man who beat the man, knocked him out, beat him badly. Someone else fights that man years later on a poor pay-per-view card, and people actually give that guy more credit than they give Danny Garcia. But other people are haters. Doesn't make any sense to me. What I can tell you is this. This is the fight because Earl Spence is the one who's been fighting the better competition in the welterweight division. Earl Spence is the one who's beating the better competition, beating the bigger names. Earl Spence did that. Danny Garcia has been making the big fights since he came to 147. He's been actually stepping in the ring. Not saying everyone's been ducking him, not saying that it's difficult to make the fights. He's been making the fights, and he's been performing well in the fights. It's debatable. There are debates about the outcome of the Keith Thurman fight. And even if you speak to Keith Thurman will tell you Danny Garcia is the hardest hitter he's been in the ring with. Listen to Keith Thurman talk about Danny Garcia. Now you know why he don't want to give him a rematch. Sean Porter know he lost that fight to Danny. That's why he run around hating on Danny every chance he get. But here's the point. At least Danny fought Keith Thurman, and at least he fought Sean Porter. And we all saw him be competitive in those fights. So we know he's a quality fighter. And now we got him versus Earl Spence. Earl Spence, by the way, said that Danny won those fights. He knows what's up. We know what's up. We are seeing the two best welterweights, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but the buzz for the fight, the fact they want this fight live gate, the fact that this fight's on pay-per-view, the fact this fight's picked up in the UK and both the men fighting are from the US lets you know this is that fight.
Yeah, and also to add, Thurman said, Danny hit so hard, he hit him in the shoulder, and Thurman said it felt like he got shot. I said, God, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So
it don't matter what Danny do. People are going to hate on Danny and then actually make it seem like you're a hater. People will hate on Earl and actually make it seem like you're a hater because you're calling out the hypocrisy in their game.
You know what it is? People, even the people that really, really, really love boxing, right? They get into a thing where they start picking favorites, right? And then when you pick favorites, right? You know, I've been guilty of it too. You know, you end up picking a favorite, right? You gotta correct yourself, right? And then you start overlooking other people's accomplishments and what they do. If you don't think that Danny Garcia is a top-notch fighter, I don't care what a fighter, you take your favorite fighter that you love, and I want you to print out their resume. And I want you to do something that is so sweet, right? I want you to do this. Follow me. I want you to take Danny Garcia's resume, and I want you to hold it up.
And contrast.
And see who's fought more tougher fighters and more world champions. I bet you it's going to be that guy that you don't like so much.
The cherry picker.
The cherry picker.
The cherry picker who fought the better competition.
You'll be surprised. The perception of people and what is reality is two different things. People get too caught up in the hype. That's why I always ask people to don't watch the fight with the commentary. Turn the volume off. Mm-hmm. Because then you'll have your own opinion. You get to form your own opinion. It's not somebody else that's telling you their opinion. Because people start telling you what the commentators were saying instead of watching the fight themselves. So public opinion and people's a facade of what they think is going on is not really what it is. Look at the paperwork. It's right there in black and white. People can build somebody up to be who they are and say who they are, and people have this facade, or people might fail, and you might have your opinion, and it's in black and white. You can go look it up. You get to see who's who. Google, it's free.
You know, Cho, that's a great point. You know what? We might just do that, Mike, in the next segment.
Yo, please tell us what you think about this, man. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Also, check out our podcast on all major streaming services. This is going to be the fight of the year. The boxing. MFBB.
Catch me creeping down the dark street. This is where me and the zombies meet. Guarantee we all gonna eat. It's zombie red again with HD. I'm a zombie in the night, you better run from me. Zombie red in the house, you better run, homie. Brought a mask and some gloves with some thugs with me. I came to do damage, you wanna purge with me. Super Saiyan zombie, I be